Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm hoping you're having a great Saturday morning. My name is John, and this is Havoc Maker Studio and FMP Wargamers. So today is the big release of the Warhammer 40,000 Black Templars Army Box. And if you were fortunate enough to secure yourself a copy at your local game store, or if you had to go to Games Workshop to secure one, regardless, hopefully you went to your store, favorite store first. Then, if you were fortunate, great. If you're unfortunate, then you're going to be waiting probably until sometime. My guess is either next month or right after the first of the year to get your hands on the Codex, the new Crusader Squad, the upgrade boxes, all the new models, all the units that we're going to go over today. And we're also going to explore a little bit of the Codex leaks today as well, just so you can have an idea until you can get your hands on the Codex and all the new models, so you can have an idea of what's coming down the line for you. Now, if you are using, say, Battle Scribe, you probably are already going to be, probably within the next few days or within the next week, have your update, so you'll be able to at least build your Black Templar army with the new Codex in mind right now while you're waiting for it to come out. Battlescribe is free, but I will say if you have a chance, donate to them. There's a link and everything in the app. These people, these men and women, work on it for free. So if you can donate some money, even $1, believe it or not, that still helps. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about the different units that you're going to be getting out of this codex. I'll save the relics and stratagems for another video, but today I really just want to focus on the units, and this is what a lot of people are mainly concerned about. So, as you can see right now, we're going to talk about the High Marshal Helbrick. And this is his brand new model that's going to be coming out. You've probably seen lots of memes of his little wiper guy there, all over the internet, Instagram, and whatnot. So let's take a look at his new rules. Now, I took some screenshots from various sources. I believe this one right here is from Spiky Bits. So credit to Spiky Bits, whoever wrote that article and put up the screenshot. So the new High Marshal Helbrick, we're just going to take a highlight some of the new increases across the board and see what the differences are. Now, the power still stays the same. They're both 8 power. Don't know about points, but I would guess they're probably relative. The difference is that the new Helbrick is going to have 8 wounds instead of 6. So he's getting that +1 boost that all Marines were getting, and kind of the +1 boost I think Chapter Masters slash Chapter Masters and special characters tend to get. So he's got a +2 wound bonus, and at least power wise, he's not going up or down. So right now, off to a good start. He got one more attack. I don't think that's necessarily because he's a Primaris model, or might be because he's a Primaris model, or they just gave all Space Marines the +1 attack, I believe. Now, his weapons are a little different. So they gave his Combi Melta an actual name. So it is called Ferocity now. And it really kind of reflects more of, not necessarily, well, the new Melta rules and also the bolt gun rules for the Primaris. So we're seeing some alterations there. And it's already souped up. It's a relic. Now, before selecting targets, just like regular combi weapons, if you decide to fire both types of barrels, you subtract 1 from the attack hit rolls. Okay, so the big difference is the bolt rifle versus the bolt gun. It's 30-inch range now instead of 24 inches, so nice 6-inch increase. Instead of rapid fire 1, we're at rapid fire 2. That's pretty significant. And then we're looking at strength 5 versus strength 4, a -1 AP now, and stays flat damage of 1. So overall, huge increases across the board. and especially if he doesn't end up costing any extra points or just a mild amount of points, it's a huge increase already with the bonus wounds, attack, and ferocity. So really cool there. The new thing, the attendant thrall fist. I don't want to discuss that. We're not going to talk about the thralls right now. But that is essentially an extra source of attack since it is all one base. So in a way, it's, I guess, not too bad. I guess it's just more attacks. Only a strength 3, but you know what? All it takes is for one of those strength 3 attacks to slip through and do a point of damage. So it's nothing super great, but it is a boost, especially if it doesn't really cost you anything to have it. Excuse me. Now the Sword of the High Marshal has changed. It has 2 different weapon profiles. Previously, it was a +2 to strength, -3 AP, and a flat 2 damage, which very, very significant. That's definitely above a regular power sword. Now, each time the bearer fights, if it made a charge move or performed heroic intervention, it makes D3 additional attacks with this weapon. So that's the old version. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Now, the new one, if you're one-handed, you're +2 strength, -3 AP, and 1 damage. So a little bit down from the older profile. But each time you make an attack, each time an attack is made with this weapon profile, you get 2 hit rolls versus 1. Versus, you had to charge to get, D3 additional attacks. Now, if you fight one-handed, you're up to 12 attacks, which is kind of freaking nice because he has a base 6 attacks. If he charged, that's 7 attacks for shock assault. Not too bad, guys. Not too bad. That's up to 14 attacks at strength 6 -3. And then he has two-handed, which this is the newer profile, and it's a little bit more in line with the kind of power fist, power, not necessarily power axe, but those heavier weapons. So ×2 strength, -3 AP, and the flat 3 damage. I prefer flat damage versus, say, the Melta-Guns D6 +2, which D6 +2 is nice because you're guaranteed at least 3 damage off of that. But the random dice damage is always kind of an iffy, especially when you're looking at a major character like this. You don't want necessarily random damage rolls. You would like flat damage. The type of damage this guy's going to put out there. So six attacks normally, 7 on the charge, with up to 21 damage, up to 21 damage at two-handed, and up to 14 damage one-handed. So I mean, one's got more attacks, so you're I'll let you guys do the math on what that's good, how that's going to work out. Now, he's got the normal Chapter Master ability to grant the rerolls to hit roll for a unit within 6 inches of this model. That's kind of a standard thing that's going on there. And the Iron Halo 4+ invulnerable save. So he's pretty beefy at a 2-up, 4-up with 8 wounds running around. Now, here's some of the differences. So the original Crusade of Wrath allowed you to add +1 strength characteristic to the model of any Black Templar unit within 6 inches. So not only are you going to get those rerolled to hit, you're also getting that boost of strength. The new one, the new one is the same thing. I think everything is the same thing. I must be thinking of another character. The Rites of Battle aura affects within 6 inches, and this is the same thing. You get to reroll a hit roll of 1. So not only, you're re-rolling a lot of stuff. The Rites of Battle are just tossed in there because I think basically when you have your captains, they have the Rites of Battle, and then whenever you upgrade them to Chapter Master, they get the Chapter Master ability. They just leave it there. That's still really significant across the board, especially if there's not going to be a major point increase. I'm hoping to see the point increases today. But if he's at 8 power and was originally 8 power, I think that's really awesome. So I think we're going to be we're looking at something pretty significant here. So let me jump over to the Emperor's Champion. Now I'm not super big overall fan of the Emperor's Champion model. It just seems so blah to me. Now, in regards to being a great model for any sort of chapter, I like that he doesn't have too much iconography of the Black Templars, minus the I think both of his right and left shoulder pad have the Black Templar symbol, but you could pop those off very likely or file them down. So as a universal model, the Emperor's Champion, I really dig. But as the Emperor's Champion, I don't know. He just seems a little lackluster to me, in appearance-wise, aesthetic-wise. But let's take a look at his stats. Not that much difference. They both still stay the same 5 power, which is really okay, cool. We're seeing that pretty much across the board, I think, except for Chaplain Grimaldis. We'll get to him in just a moment. Everything stays the same except for he has an increase in his wounds and attack, or just his wounds, sorry. Just increase in his wounds, which we've seen that with every Space Marine. And now that the Emperor's Champion is essentially a Primaris Marine, well, not even essentially, he is a Primaris Marine. He has the keyword. That's where we're seeing that boost from. Now, his Black Sword has changed. Originally, we're looking at a +3 strength, -3 AP, and 2 damage. And each time the attack was made against a character or a monster unit, he got to reroll the wounds. That's not too bad. Now, his new one, he's got 2 different profiles, which, okay, we're going to take a look at those. You have to choose which one you're doing, so keep in mind that he gets either 5 attacks normally or 6 attacks on the charge, or if there's somebody that might have an aura and ability to boost him up, he might be able to get another attack. Regardless, he has the Sweeping Blow, which is +3 to strength, -3 AP, 2 damage, like the original stat. Now he can do the Thrusting Strike, which is ×2 damage, -4 AP, and 3 damage. Now, when he does make this attack, since it is considered like a heavier attack, like your Power Fist, your Thunder Hammers, that sort of thing, you're -1 to hit with that. But he's already hitting on a 2+. If you're close by a chaplain or your chapter master, you're probably going to have a +1 aura, or you're going to be re-rolling. So it's not really a significant loss. Nothing really to worry about there. Now, here's a couple things. His Armor of Faith stays the same. He has a 4+ invulnerable save, so he's a 2-up, 4-up. Really cool. It makes him very stout, I guess the best way to describe it. And a lot of people look at 4+ invulnerable saves as like, if it's not a 3+ or better, then it's not that great. And even invulnerable save is fantastic. Obviously, the higher the better, and a 4+ is nice. So the skillful parry, subtract 1 from the hit roll, stays the same. The Sigismund, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Sigismund Air. Let's take a look at that one. Each time the character makes a melee attack against an enemy character unit, you can reroll the hit roll and you can reroll the wound roll. Now, before, it was just +1 to your strength and +1 to your attacks characteristic, which was awesome, but there's our rerolls to hit and wound. So who cares if I use the Thrusting Strike, right? So then we got the Holy War Gear, which basically just means he can't take any relics. We're not too worried about that. Martial Superiority is a new item or a new ability at the start of the fight phase. If this model is in engagement range of an enemy character, he gets to fight first. Because if you're not familiar, ever since the Emperor's Champion came out, they like to seek out the enemy characters, or I think in later editions was, let's go slay the monster because we're all knightly and such. Honor or Death, I believe, is a new ability. It looks like it. It can perform a heroic intervention, and basically, and this is what I kind of like about the 9th edition rules, they go into detail about the horizontal and vertical movements, and that's essentially what's going on here. Is you're able to heroically intervene 6 inches horizontally or 5 vertically versus 3 and 5. Pretty cool. I'm digging this. And if he doesn't go up too much in points, which, usually when they're that same power level, there's not that much of a point difference. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm not too worried about him. I think he's a decent choice for a character, especially since you're not going to be rocking a librarian if you're running Black Templars. This is a good character to toss in there, especially running around with your sword brethren, or even to boost up your Crusader squads, which actually we're going to get to here in just a moment. But I want to talk about Chaplain Grimaldis. So Chaplain Grimaldis we got a new model coming out with his new peons that carry around all of his holy relics. He's always awesome looking, even though some people are making fun of his grill there. I've seen everything from being like horse teeth to the Cenobites. If you're familiar with not Wishmaster. Oh man, I can't remember the name of the movies. Crap, I'm not. You guys know what I'm talking about with Pinhead and all them. Anyway, so let's take a look at his rules because his model looks freaking awesome. I mean, he looks brutal. I really wish I could get that model for regular, like a regular chaplain, but it just doesn't fit the aesthetic of like my Iron Snakes. So let's take a look here. Stat wise, everything is staying the same until we get to the wounds and his attacks. And just like everybody else that goes up to Primaris, got their boost to +1 wound and +1 attack. So we went from 4 and a 3 to a 5 and a 4. Cool. We're going to take it. His artifact, his weapons all stay the same. There's no big changes. In fact, the only big changes that we're going to see are really in the other war gear and his abilities that he has. And that's why we're seeing that increase from a 5 power originally to the 7 power. Now, a lot of these are kind of overlapping abilities, and we're gonna, for time's sake, we're just kind of buzz over them. So originally he had the spiritual leader aura, which is basically the chaplain aura. Allows people to use his leadership ability. Cool. Devout Puritan, and he still has that over here. They just call it Devout. Basically, he can attempt to nullify or resist a psychic power with the Deny the Witch, essentially, just like if he was a psyker. That stays the same. Really cool. Unmatched Zeal. It's another kind of a friendly ability that boosts up your Black Templar core units if they're within 6 inches. And here's what it does. The original is each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack on an unmodified hit roll of 6, you get to make an additional attack against the same unit using the same weapon. So if let's just put, best case example, you have a squad of Crusaders that are getting, say, 3 attacks on the charge. They're within range to get the Unmatched Zeal originally. Let's say favorably they roll 6s on all 3 of their attacks. Now they're getting an additional attack on top of all that. But those don't generate additional attacks. So keep that in mind. Now, right now, he does not have the Unmatched Zeal. However, we do have a bunch of other abilities that are coming along with the war gear. And some of these war gear things will match originally. So that aside, we don't have that anymore, but he does have the Indomitable Resolve, where you can choose to roll 1d6 at the end of the phase instead of using any rules that are trigger when that model is destroyed. So whenever he goes down, there's an opportunity for him to get back up with 3 wounds remaining. Really cool. That just shows that how much of a badass he is, and he can just keep on fighting. If you've read like the Hell's Reach book or even wisps of any of the lore about him, he gets effed up a lot, but he always gets back up and starts fighting. Now, taking a look over at his other war gear, this is where he's really going to excel as a chaplain. Remember, you're not getting a librarian, and this is a heavy close combat army, so taking Grimaldis might be a little costly point-wise, but the benefits to your Crusader squads, your Sword Brethren squads and such is going to be a huge boost. So he's got Banner of the Fallen Crusaders. That's one of the little minions that follow him around, and I don't know why I did that. Any Black Templar corps or character unit within 6 inches of this character, each time an advance roll is made for that unit, you get to add D3 plus 3 to the unit's move characteristic instead of D6. You're guaranteed 4 inches. That's awesome. I mean, how many times have you guys done an advance or even a charge and you roll up that one? It's like, for F's sake. Now you're getting that guaranteed 4 inches every time, which is huge. Now you can plan a lot of your strategy around that. The Remnant of the Fallen Empire. Now, same thing, core units or character units within 6 inches of him. Each time a model in that unit would lose a wound on a D6, that wound is not lost. Big boost, especially when you toss that in with, I believe it's one of the vowels that ignore mortal wounds. Really awesome. But this one, I think the mortal wound vow, actually, it's only for once per game for one complete from your turn to the start of your next turn, I believe. Don't quote me on that. This one is always active. That's a nice buff. Now, the next one is the Scepter of Anointing. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but each time a roll is made to determine if a litany recited by Grimaldis is inspiring, you get to add +1 to that roll. So +1, that's almost kind of, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that's kind of like having the Chaplain upgrade to make him the Reclusiarch, and that kind of boosts him up. So he still has his priestly ability where he gets to, he knows the main litany of hate, and 2 other litanies. And the litanies have been boosted, and some, I believe, altered or boosted for the Black Templars. We're going to save that for another video. So right now we're looking at some very good boost across the board for everybody. And the only one that's really got, we could probably say that's got a point increase, is going to be Grimaldis, if we look at it just based on power level of a 7 to a 5. But right now, these 3 core characters I think are super ideal for a Black Templar army based on points. And like I said, since you don't have to worry about a librarian and you won't have to worry about a lot of heavy vehicles because you're probably going to be designing a close combat army, these guys are going to be really great. I could see lots of Crusader squads, Sword Brethren, maybe some Blade Guard veteran squads, maybe, depending. I don't know, you might want those Lightning Claws from the Sword Brethren, and then probably lots of Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Let's take a look at the Crusader Squad. Now, we know there's going to be a new Crusader Squad box, and there's an upgrade box for if you have any existing models. So we're going to try to fly through this. There's not that many changes, except everybody is essentially Primaris models. So looking across the board, they are just what you would expect from Primaris models, with the exception of the Primaris Neophytes. Now, they match almost exactly across the board as the regular Marines. They did get a boost of +1 attack and + wound, but that's because of the Primaris status, and all Space Marines were getting that big boost anyways. Their leadership stays the same, as does their armor save. Now, these squads, it's 5 Crusaders, you get 4 Neophytes, and then you get 1 Sword Brethren or Sword Brother. They're basically your squad sergeant. So you're gonna, and I believe you can add up to, they can be up to a 20-man squad, and depending on the size of your squad, you can add on additional special equipment. So all the equipment stays the same, except now we have the new Pyre pistol, the Pyre blaster, which have already been covered on Warhammer and Warhammer community and very other channels. All the new bolt rifles. So there's no big changes there. The squad composition has changed, but it's really based on the new Primaris war gear. And it's how you're going to be outfitting your Primaris Sword Brethren with pistols and axes and stuff. So there's not a lot of huge big changes there, except you're getting the increases for being the Primaris. Now, the Pyre Blaster is a nice 15-inch flamer, and the Pyre pistol, I've never been a big fan of the pistols, but at D6 shots from the pistol is still kind of nice, especially when they're guaranteed to hit as long as you're within range. So Pyro Pistol, I can kind of see now. I think before, when it was like maybe D3 hits for a Flamer pistol, I was like, I'm not too sure about that. But D6 hits is still not too bad. It's still Strength 3, but that's better than nothing. So, like I said, Crusader Squad, we can zoom through. Now, here's the difference is that since that power level has gone up, and you are now a 10-man minimum squad versus before it was a 5-man minimum squad, the Crusader Squad has increased from a 5 power originally to a 10 power. So just be aware that there's going to be a significant point increase. You're probably going to be looking at, I'm not sure, let's say probably close to 200 points. I'm going to say maybe 150 points, maybe 150 points for the squad, and maybe up to 200 since you are double the size. And even though the neophytes are a little on the low end, stat wise, mainly just leadership and saves, and their equipment, they're still 2 wound models, 2 attacks. I look at them as a blade of wounds for the rest of your squad. And I think a lot of people have always kind of looked at them being like that. So let's move on to the Sword Brethren. Now the Sword Brethren, they kind of went away in the last edition when they came out with the Index Black Templar. I think most people just kind of swapped them out with Vanguard veterans and or the Stern Guard, mainly really Vanguard veterans. So this is kind of going back to some earlier editions. I want to say maybe definitely 5th, but probably 6th edition, maybe 6th edition, but 5th edition. So we're getting the Sword Brethren back. And this is a little bit more significant. Now they're at 7 power level. It's a squad of 4 to 10, and which is kind of a weird number. You would think 5, but hey, 4 to 10, whatever. Now they have, it actually says that might just be a typo. No, never mind. I see. If the unit contains 5 or more models, power rating goes to 8, 6 or more goes to 16. Okay, no big deal. So they all start off with the heavy bolt pistols, the starting chain swords. They're a close combat Primaris squad. Now, over regular Primaris Marines, the biggest boost that they have is just an additional attack, and that's pretty much from their veteran status. The big key here is going to be their equipment and the special ability called the Vow Swarm Bladesman. While any Templar vows are in effect, this unit is not affected by the Vow's passion. I covered this in a previous video where the passions are a part of the vow. They're kind of like the detriment, and we're going to go over a couple of them just here in a minute, the other 2 that we didn't get to cover last time. Now, here are some really cool things, because right now the Primaris Marines, depending on what squad type you're taking, can already get Thunder Hammers, I believe Power Axes, Power Mauls, Plasma Pistols, that sort of thing. But now you can get the Pyre Pistols, and more importantly, get the Lightning Claws. People really love Lightning Claws for some reason. I've seen lots of Vanguard, Jump Pack Vanguard veteran squads with at least 1 Lightning Claw, and I think a Chainsword. Don't quote me on that. Or maybe it might have just been double Lightning Claw. For some people, the reason people really want to put Lightning Claws on Primaris Marines, and now we get to do it. So that's 3 attacks, 4 attacks on the charge, or 5 attacks on the charge for being Sword Brethren, and getting rerolls to wound because it is Lightning Claws. Really cool that happens. That's really the biggest changes. These guys are basically just a veteran assault squad with tons of weapon options. Now, you don't get a lot of weapon options if you're fewer than 9 models, but once you get up to 10 models, you can have up to 2 of every option. Really awesome. The other thing is that regardless of the squad size, is that you can swap out the Astartes Chainsword for a Power Sword. Now, how much that costs, not too sure. Probably, I'm going to bet probably about 5 points, maybe 10, but I'm going to say probably 5 points. Pretty cool. Pretty cool overall. Let's go to back to Grimaldis, since we're going to be talking about vows. I don't know why we're going to go over that. Now, before we talked about Abhor the Witch, Destroy the Witch. and accept any challenge no matter the odds. But right now I want to talk about the other two: suffer not the unclean to live, and uphold the honor of the emperor. And then that's it. We'll be done. So thank you right now for putting up with me this whole time. I mean, we're about 30 minutes here. Before or while I'm starting to talk and you're listening to all this awesome rules that we're talking about here, jump down below, hit that subscribe button, a thumbs up preferably, but a thumbs down if you need to, and leave a comment. It really helps with the metrics and it shows you guys' interest in the channel. So we're going to start with suffer not the unclean to live. Not my super favorite, but still a cool one. It gives you the ability to auto wound on 6s to hit in melee, and that's against non-vehicle units. The passion, however, requires you to make a charge against non-aircraft units if they're within 12 inches. So you're kind of, I think that's almost an older rule where it's like, oh, there's a unit over here, I've got to go charge you. I want to say that was like 6th or 7th edition. It could have been 8th, but I think 6th or 7th, they had those rules where they had to auto charge the closest unit. I think Berserkers, the Corn Berserkers were like that as well. They still might be. So the auto wounds on 6s, there's some better ones out there. The one I am liking, I think a lot of people are kind of really paying attention to, is uphold the honor of the emperor. Now, the passion is the downside. So remember, the sword brethren are not affected by the passion. So don't have to worry there, but everybody else is. Now, the passion doesn't allow you to gain the benefits of cover. But you know what? You're playing a crusading knightly close combat army. Are you really worried about cover? You're probably moving as fast as possible towards the enemy out in the open. And remember, using your ablative wounds from your neophytes. But what this vow does give you is two things. First one is a 5-up invulnerable save. Awesome, hands down, right off the bat. Everybody's got a 5-up. That means you got like a 33-ish, 34, 33-ish percentage chance of shrugging off wounds that would normally kill you. Awesome right off the bat. Then, if the wounding roll would normally, if you'd normally be wounded on, say, a 1 or a 2, it fails. So you can only be wounded on a 3 or higher. That's awesome. So now you're reduced really that 30% chance of being wounded on a 2. You know what I mean? I'll let you guys figure out the percentage. It's probably like 17%. I don't think you can really be wounded on a 1. I think 1's a 1. So, but still that 2, so 17%, or if you want to look at it as 30 some odd percent, you're eliminating that, and then you're adding on that 5-up invulnerable save. Let's say usually those weapons that are going to wound you on a 2 probably have a high AP value. That's going to be maybe -3. So there would go strip off your armor. So you'd lose your 3, 4, 5. You'd be having a normal 6 save. But you have this invulnerable save of a 5-up. That brings it back down and gives you a better opportunity. So I'm not going to try to figure out the math of eliminating the wound on a 2 and then the 5-up invulnerable save covering. It's significant enough that I see a lot of people probably take and uphold the honor. Those are the additional 2 of the vows that you can take. They're pretty much like the super doctrine abilities that some of the other chapters get. Really cool, really awesome, really exciting. I'm not a super big fan of the Black Templars because I think they're like borderline traitorish. But, and I'll let you guys, we can discuss that in the comments below. But I think we're going to see some significant Black Templar players. I've already seen in the different chat groups and some different interviews on podcasts and some articles that I've read where some of the top players are already scrambling to get their hands on Black Templars right now so they can use them in the meta. So we're going to see some interesting things with Black Templars. I think they're reasonably balanced. I don't see a big FAQ coming down the line to hamper anything, but you never know because players, especially the competitive players, even though they're the minority of everything, of the player base, they're the tiny little bit, they do look for those most efficient ways to compete with an army, and they're going to find ways to not cheat. Well, some tiny percentage might cheat of that tiny percentage, but they're going to find a way to bend those rules and find their ways to get the most efficient, crazy combos possible. So God bless them, because they do what the rest of us can't do, and then we can just follow in their footsteps. At any rate, Black Templar is dropping today. Make sure you go by your friendly local game store. Mine is the Atomic Hobby Shop in Cypress, Texas. But sometimes I go to Edmund Games and Hobbies out in Humble, or Fat Ogre up in Tomball, or is it Spring? Somewhere up in North Houston. Fat Ogre Games and Comics, and of course Board and Brew over in Humble. So make sure you give a shout out to your favorite store. Make sure you go by and see them today, and secure your copy of Black Templar if you didn't already pre-order it. If you didn't pre-order it, hopefully they'll have a copy for you. You guys have yourself a wonderful day, and I will talk to you a little later.